Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne Elliott here again for Health and Wellness with Wayne Elliott. My pleasure and honor to be with you again today. Um, this show will play on the Truth Be Told radio network Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on social media, which I don't know much about. You'll be able to watch this live or when someone posts it, I guess, and uh, see me and my guest. We have a wonderful guest on today, a naturopath I've known for over 20 years, and she'll be with us in a few minutes. But I wanted to touch back on something after the last show. Uh, with respect to Strauss and the world famous Strauss heart drops, which of course have shown to, as with they did with me, safely dissolve that plaque and from cholesterol primarily that restricts or can actually block not only our arteries, but any of our vessels, including the tiny vessels that go to our eyes and our ears. I think I told you after 2 weeks on Strauss heart drops, my hearing returned to my left ear. I could always hear noise, but I couldn't make out what people were saying. And after 2 weeks, I could, which was a thrill. I had no idea that cholesterol played a part in that. Uh, and then I think I also mentioned after, I forget, but maybe 6 months or so, I actually stopped wearing eyeglasses. I still needed the cheaters for reading, but I did not need them for driving or for long distance anymore. And that lasted about 5 years. Then I went and took a truck driving test for a job that we had, and I failed the eye test, although I know my eyes were better than they were when I started wearing glasses. But anyway, I'm back to wearing glasses now. But the thing I wanted to raise today was we've talked about prevention, and everyone knows that the old expression, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, and that just makes sense. For example, it's much less work and strain on you and your body to prevent a heart attack or stroke than to recover from one. Now, don't get me wrong. We've had just an infinite number of people have done very well after a heart attack or stroke once they have increased their blood flow. I mean, the reason for a heart attack or a stroke, which is really a brain attack, is restricted blood flow and therefore limited oxygen. That all important oxygen to our brain. Our brain uses 20% of all the oxygen that we take in. So if we take in too little, it's getting 20% of too little. We can have a stroke if our carotid arteries going up the sides of our neck get restricted or clogged. It can cause a stroke. And of course, heart attack is our major number one killer, they say. And that's from lack of oxygen to the heart. Our heart can attack us. So, but again, back to the prevention, you know, when they do a bypass surgery, and they'll generally do that to go around a severely clogged or totally clogged artery, they will most often strip a vein from our leg or legs. I guess it depends how many bypasses a person has, but um, you know, I'll bet there's never been a study done. It would be very interesting if there were a study done to see how those folks who've had a bypass surgery and had a vein or veins stripped from their legs to replace the heart artery to carry the blood. I wonder how many of those people later have trouble with their legs or feet. Because let's face it, folks, the creator really created a perfect specimen when the human body was created. It's quite unbelievable, really, how we can get away with abusing ourselves, truthfully, in so many ways for so long, often until we have a serious problem. So, I mean, there's never been a piece of machinery built anywhere near as efficiently as the human body. And it always kind of blows my mind that 50,000 kilometers of vessels and veins and arteries inside us, that's twice around the earth. If it wasn't a fact, it'd be just too hard to believe. But as we've discussed, the reason for that is every single cell in our body needs blood. Our immune cells, every organ, our skin, our biggest organ, everything needs blood. And when we have less of it from restrictions or none of it from blockage, we're going to have a problem, whether it's to your ears, your eyes, your heart, your brain, your feet. Every single cell, your immune system, every cell needs blood. And that's why we have those tens of thousands of miles of vessels in us. So, given that the human body was such a perfect creation, really, uh, it concerns me. Now, these bypass surgeries, of course, can save someone's life and change someone's life. But I do wonder about that when they take a part of us, a vein from our leg or veins from our legs, to do these bypasses. What happens from there? What carries that blood that was to go down our legs and into our feet? I just have to believe there's certainly potential trouble there. So once again, prevention. I thank goodness I have stuck with the original equipment. I didn't have a bypass surgery. I didn't have a pacemaker installed for my arrhythmia. I didn't take any pharmaceuticals. And again, the pharmaceuticals that are most often given to heart patients, the blood thinners and the statin drugs, or also sometimes called cholesterol drugs, they don't claim to remove so much as a grain of plaque. They don't claim it. In fairness to them, they don't say we'll clean your arteries and veins out, because that isn't what the drugs do. Uh, some of them, at least the statin drugs, seek to have your body produce less cholesterol, because we need cholesterol. Our liver produces it. So at least some of the statin drugs purport to work by reducing or shuttering, governing down your liver's function to produce less cholesterol. Here's the thing. Your liver has more jobs than just producing cholesterol. It has many, many jobs. So we're also governing it down or reducing it from running full throttle, if you will, for all of those other functions. And it's not surprising that liver disease causes people so much trouble and takes so many people. So again, I do think we're better off with the original equipment. And and prevention. You can still practice prevention if you've had bypass surgery, because I'll bet you don't want another one. I'll bet you don't want to go through that again. It's very intrusive, as we all know. We get sawed down the middle of our chest and have to have our chest opened up so they can get to our heart and do the repairs they're trying to do. And there's hardly anything more invasive than I can think of than that. So I'm very grateful I had none of it. And this is certainly not to frighten anyone who has had bypass surgery. That isn't my point, because you can still help yourself. When they do these bypass surgeries, of course, they can't change all the veins. So what they do is, where you have the most severe, maybe a total blockage or the most severe restricted blood, is where they will bypass. That might leave an artery that's 30% restricted still. And there isn't anything done about that. And of course, the drugs don't claim to do anything about that, except let you produce less cholesterol. So I suppose they purport to work by slowing the problem, if you will. And that's if they work as claimed. And that's all I want to say about that. But even with varicose veins, folks, that can be the same issue. When that blood congeals and stops blood from flowing, well, we have kind of the same end result as if the vein was stripped, if it can no longer pass blood. And there's been a lot of people, and you're going to hear some personal evidence with my wonderful guest coming up on how the Strauss heart drops have helped people flatten those varicose veins, have helped them with the pain of the varicose veins. Uh, to my way of thinking, it would be a last resort to have a vein stripped. It's once again, we were built with all this wonderful original equipment, and I believe we're best to stick with the original equipment. I mean, the Creator did a perfect job making the human body, and you can't beat perfect. You know, perfect is perfect, and so. Uh, I've thought about this a lot with the bypass surgery. Jim Strauss used to say, because he of course felt the same way. He said it prolongs death, not prolongs life, which isn't exactly true. But I guess his point was it just perhaps is not the best way, of course, to treat restricted blood flow. The best way is to have full blood flow. And that's why after 28 years on Strauss heart drops, I'll never quit taking them personally. Me and most of my family are prone to this cholesterol plaquing problem for, well, a number of generations. And so at my age, I'm in my 70th year. I sure don't want issues coming back like I had them in my 30s. So that's why I've never stopped taking them. I don't I don't take them 3 times a day anymore. I usually take one large dose a day, sometimes two. But I feel as though as long as I get that one good sized dose into me, that it's helping keep everything clear. And I have had no problems in 28 years. I've not taken so much as an aspirin. I've never taken any of the pharmaceuticals. Thank goodness for my arrhythmia. I did not have a pacemaker installed in me. I know some football players that did, and you know, for them it did not turn out well in the end. Our heart is our pump, and pumps do wear out. And for very strenuous exercises like heavy weightlifting and playing football, uh, we can tend to wear our pump out, and this is what happens. And one of the first signs, of course, is irregular heartbeat, or arrhythmia, as it's called, and that's Western medicine's most difficult heart condition to treat. Um, I had what is called supraventricular tachycardia. I had a one beat race, which I thought was skipping a beat. For years, I thought my heart was skipping a beat because of that blank time in between the race beat and the next beat. Turns out it was racing a beat, not skipping a beat, but nonetheless, I felt every one. It didn't hurt. There was no pain involved with it, but it was very concerning to me because I felt every beat, and I would often wake up through the night and sit up quickly and gasp, thinking I wasn't going to get the next breath. I always did, but just a terrible feeling going to sleep with it, waking up with it. I know other people. My one of my best friends and former teammates, he had some crazy arrhythmia and he didn't feel his. So that was a blessing for him because his heartbeat went from 0 to 250 beats a minute and everywhere in between, like a pinball machine almost. It would have certainly drove him crazy if he had have felt all that. Pardon me. For me, we both my friend that I mentioned and I started the Strauss uh, cardio calm at the same time. And he was in very, very poor physical health and he weighed 400 pounds. Uh, so for him and his arrhythmia, he actually took 6 months taking the cardio support formula from Strauss. I was only 3 months. I took it for 3 months and now here it is, whatever, 28 years, I've had no irregular heartbeat, which I am most grateful for. That was certainly painless and easy. So, um, just wanted to mention that again about prevention and this business of bypass surgery and so forth, and some of the heavy drugs that people get prescribed. You're sure better off, folks, if you can avoid that, if you can prevent that. And there's just a simple, painless way to help do that. You know, Jim Strauss always said, if you're not made from it, it cannot fix you. he'd say that to expect man-made chemical drugs, which were not around when we were created, there was no man-made chemicals then, so we don't have equipment to deal with them. But for us to expect man-made chemical drugs to fix us would be like expecting the lumber yard to be able to fix our vehicle. You can't do it. You can't fix your car with wood, plywood, and 2x4s. You need materials the car is made from, the rubber and the plastic and the metal and the galvanized and the cast iron. Excuse me, the aluminum. If you don't have that, you can't fix the car. We're the same way. We can only be healed and truly helped by, in my opinion, by cells that we're made from, same as these herbs. We all came from the same place. We're all made from the same cells. And Jim always said, if you're not made from it, it cannot fix you. And that's certainly been my experience as a natural health advocate for almost 30 years now. And it's my pleasure now to introduce just a fine woman, naturopath, who I've known for over 20 years, and she has experience with Strauss for the last at least 20 years. Miss Nicole Gardner, and I'm just going to try and get her on with us. And there she is. Good day, Nicole. How are you today?
Hi, Wayne. I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You look great. I love that even color. You must be taking your heart drops.
Oh, yes.
Good for you. Good for you. Uh, Nicole, we were just talking about, I was just talking about prevention and how it's a much easier path to take than, suffering some of these things like heart attack or stroke and then making a comeback. But I've known you for a long time, and a lot of respect for the work you've done. And I know you have a great deal of experience with some of the Strauss formulas, and some of which, to be frank, I don't hear from a lot of people. We get the usual increased energy and
Mhm.
arrhythmia gone and heart fine. My dad's own bypass surgery was canceled in Boston, so we get all that kind of good news. But I've had my eyes open to other ways that some of these formulas have helped. I used to say that with the Strauss heart drops, Nicole, so many things can be helped because that blood flow, those 50,000 kilometers of vessels and veins going
Mhm.
to every cell, it almost sounds like snake oil with all the good, the potential good that a person might experience. We're all like snowflakes to start with. We're all different from one another. And it never ceases to amaze me when I hear new things. So, not sure where you'd like to start, but let's start with the cardio support, which I've always related to heart arrhythmia, and
Mhm.
you have your own experience with it. Why don't you talk about that, Nicole?
Sure, sure. Well, as you know, I am a huge fan of the heart drops. And like you, I will be taking them ongoing. I have taken them since I was approximately 25, in my early 20s. And because of my family history and my own cardiovascular disease, I won't stop. So let's just set that out first. But then I discovered CardioCalm as an added benefit because I was finding a little bit of intermittent, maybe anxiety, I would say. Maybe this the times we're living in. I was getting a little bit of brain fog, so I started on the cardio calm to help with that little palpitation that I was feeling. And lo and behold, I found what it really noticeably did for me. Not only calmed the palpitation, but it really gave me great focus. So the brain fog was not there. I could concentrate better. I could find my words better. The nervousness wasn't overtaking me. Where there's a cortisol release, and then of course we know that's brain fog. So what I found was happening was I was taking it for one thing initially and finding out it was helping on all levels of that stressor. So In my case, I actually love taking CardioCalm ongoing. I'll take it when before I do a session like this, or before I do something that needs my ultimate cognitive value. Because, like I said, that cortisol isn't released, the stress nerves, and then I can actually retrieve like from my memory. So I have laser focus. And like I said, the arrhythmia is no longer so, or the palpitations, I should say, the intermittent kind of anxiety is no longer. So there are various ways to take it. And what I found with people that I've suggested, like students that want to take it to learn better, so they don't, because they're all complaining about this brain fog. So
Mm.
that's their main, like their chief complaint when they're coming is this brain fog. They can't concentrate. So now they're finding that CardioCalm calms them, so they're not getting that palpitation anxiety that stress can cause, and they're literally retrieving the information from their professor so much better,
Mhm.
and being able to regurgitate it on exams without the stress getting in the way.
Right.
Great thing.
Absolutely. I just last few weeks, a friend of mine, his wife went on the heart drops, and she told me after 2 weeks that she was just much clearer mentally, and
Mhm.
just backs up what you're saying. You called it brain fog, but that she
Mm,
just has so much more clarity now. She says,
mhm,
so it's obviously not. It didn't just happen with you, and
mhm,
I mean, that's great. Let's face it. And stress,
mhm,
Nicole, stress is a bad thing for us. We know that they say stress
mhm,
kills. Well, I think it kills or harms in more ways than one,
mhm,
can certainly cause anxiety and fear, and an anxiety, boy, that can sneak up on you, to where you're well. Take myself. I didn't know I had developed anxiety until I didn't have it anymore after a month or so on Strauss heart drops.
mhm,
I never said, "Geez, I'm stressed." I should have known, Nicole. I spent 11 weekends in a row in my bedroom watching TV. I hoped the phone didn't ring. I hope nobody came to the door. I almost hope Monday didn't come to go back to work and that phone start ringing and had to do things. And I honestly didn't equate it to anxiety until I felt better and didn't have it anymore. So it
mhm.
can really sneak up on you. Um, what else was there anything else you noticed with the with the cardio support formula?
So with the cardio support, I also I also found, well, getting back to it, basically the with the vagus nerve being affected by the ingredients in this formula, because I have looked into it. I mean, I've researched it. I want to know more. I always want to know more. So I can, put my family and friends and colleagues and customers and patients, all my patients on it. If there's good news, I want to share it. So when I found that for myself, I had to share it, and I had to tell my daughter about it. Now, this is one product she won't forget to take because she absolutely feels the that Zen factor. Not immediately, but seconds later. So she will take it sublingually, and it almost calms that whole nervous system, which essentially the ingredients do. It calms the central nervous system via the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is in charge of so many things in the body. So it basically can calm the autonomic and parasympathetic nervous system as well, because the vagus nerve is involved in that. So when that happens, that vagus nerve says, hey, adrenals, I don't need you to release adrenaline right now. I don't need you to release cortisol right now. I don't need you to really just be calm. So that Zen factor kicks in. Therefore, the brain fog doesn't take over. So that's what my daughter said. Initially, she said, I can't believe how calm I feel. almost immediately after taking it. And then all the benefits of, the cardiotonic that it does have in it as a great side effect for her. But as a teenager, she wants to be calm. That's her chief complaint. So that's just yet another testimonial.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful. And it does make sense to me. I think you were the first person that told me this about the calmness, uh, not just your heart, but the general calmness and relief from anxiety, um, which is a wonderful thing. It's kind of like fear, Nicole. We're
Mm,
not ourselves when we're afraid. We
mhm.
can't even use our own common sense properly when we're afraid
Absolutely.
enough. And
Absolutely.
of course, COVID, the pandemic,
Mm,
caused so much fear um,
mhm,
that people, it really did us an awful lot of harm beyond the death count and
mm,
sickness, the mental illness, the isolation, the wearing masks, which are not a healthy thing to do. I know what they were trying to do, but it's a very unhealthy thing, really, to wear a mask and breathe in your own carbon uh, monoxide.
mhm,
Um, but that whole stress and fear, we're social creatures, Nicole. We're supposed to
mhm.
be interacting with one another, children going to school, and excuse me, just everyone really. And sorry, I've developed a head cold in this last week, Nicole. I'm trying to shake. Um,
Mhm,
so um, stress and fear, they are real enemies. And
mhm,
the son of a gun with fear is that in my experience, 90% of the time that we worry and fearful of something happening, it doesn't happen anyway. So it's really
mhm,
wasted for the most part, particularly what it does to us. Um, so many people were so afraid during the pandemic. I had one young fellow in Halifax at a store say to me, "I'd rather get cancer than COVID." And I thought, "Oh my God, uh, uh, truly scared to death." So fear and stress are very unhealthy for us. Let's get more into the women's health now, Nicole, and where I
sure.
know you're an expert and a woman.
Mhm,
So uh, with respect to incontinence, the bladder, some of the issues that both men and women do have, but I,
mhm,
I I think that women, particularly after bearing a child or children,
mhm.
can have worse troubles. Do you want to talk about that for a bit?
Yes, absolutely. Um, so with the bladder support, um, I know what I noticed is I was a candidate that would have needed to take it that 6 months. So three months. Most of my women, my colleagues, my friends. I mean, I tell all my friends now. My friends find 3 months and they're done. They can run they don't have to worry about the incontinence creeping in on them. For me, I needed the 6 months. I needed, when they say 3 to 6 months for the bladder support, I needed the 6 months, and that's okay. It could be because of my age. I'm older than quite a few of my friends. Could be because I had trauma during, like really severe trauma during the first childbirth. So the pelvic floor was weakened initially, and all the tissues supporting the bladder. So over time, and I mean ligaments, tendons, I ripped a lot of things during childbirth. So anyway, I was that candidate that needed 6 months. And I'll tell you, 6 months worked for me. It worked like a charm. Bladder support for 6 months. I can run now. I don't have an issue with worrying about incontinence. Like I had to stop running for a while there because I was worried about incontinence. Now I can get back to running, no issues. I feel stronger in the pelvic region. The whole region feels stronger with the 6 months of the bladder support. So initially, I found what happened in the first week. Even I found fewer times I was having to go to the bathroom. So that was a great start. Even in the first week. Then the second week, it even got better and better. Forget the nighttime urination. That was a thing of the past. And as the months went on, I felt stronger, like the connective tissue was building, like the toning was happening. And then that's, like I said, it took me the 6 months of the bladder support, and I literally don't have to take it anymore. I feel strong. I feel confident. I can go out and not have to worry at all. And I'll tell you, I probably have to use the washroom during the day half the time that I used to, because I guess I used to have a nervous bladder. That's a thing of the past now, because it also helps with calming the nerves to the bladder. Again, that's vagus nerve. So I have found that's my testimonial, but I've found my girlfriends having very similar testimonials in 3 months' time.
Sure. Well, you know, it's not unusual, Nicole, and I say this quite often when it comes to the bladder formula, the Strauss kidney formula, for men, the Strauss prostate formula. It's not at all unusual. In fact, I'd say it's usual that folks will note, me included, will notice a different within the first week.
Mhm.
Um, my mom, who would get up 4, 5, 6 times through the night to use the bathroom, um, and then she didn't get back to sleep so easily. So it just her worst symptom arising from that was
Mm,
exhaustion.
mm,
My poor mother just couldn't get enough sleep, and getting up that many times. And mom was maybe more like you, mind you. She was in her 70s when she was on all these pills, and I convinced her to believe it or not, she was prescribed. I couldn't believe this. Uh, my mom got off any pharmaceuticals she was on except for two, and she said to me, uh,
mm,
"Excuse me, that generation they believe pretty strongly in
mm,
Western medicine." And my mother said, "Well, Wayne, let's leave the rest till I come home from Florida, and then we'll deal with the rest." And I said, "Okay, mom, how many more is there?" She said, "Two." And so when
mm,
she got home, I didn't forget. I said, "Okay, mom, let's go. Which two?"
mm,
I'll be darned, Nicole. She gave me the names of the drugs and the dosages and so forth that she was on, the milligrams. One of the drugs was basically the water pill to make you urinate. The other was a pill to stop you from urinating so much. I said, "Ma, this
mm,
is crazy.
mm,
Uh, that's like me telling you to go in the kitchen and turn the water on and then turn it off, and I'll let you know when you're done, because you'll never be done." And, I think I made her feel bad. I said, "Ma, how could you not have put two and two together yourself?" Not that I liked making my mom feel bad, but um, I found it outrageous. And I said, "You know something, Mom? I want to challenge your doctor on this. So who is it?" She said, "I don't know." I said, "What do you mean you don't know?" She said, "It's a 5-year prescription I got from each from a doctor in Florida." 5 years, Nicole. She could refill them herself, no checkup about it.
mm,
Now, were they doing any good? No. She was getting up the same
mm,
and destroying her sleep. I just couldn't believe that someone would be
mm,
prescribed both those at the same time. Uh, it's just still hard for me to believe, to be honest with
mm,
you. But anyway, when she stopped those, I mean, it is a natural function that you don't want to stop. If
mm,
you stop it, you'll die soon. Number one, but when she went off those pills and went on the actually both the bladder and kidney support, it helped, but it was like you were saying, she did get some immediate almost in the first week
Mhm.
relief. But I always tell people, Nicole, finish the bottle. Finish the bottle,
Mhm.
please. Don't do half a job just because your symptoms have
Yeah.
lessened or even disappeared. Finish the job. You can't hurt yourself. You can't take too much. You know that of these herbal formulas. You
Mhm.
can take them for life and you
Mhm.
cannot hurt yourself. So, um, yeah, we're like snowflakes. We're all different. To start with, we're all in different
Mhm.
condition, different ages. We have different lifestyles.
Yeah.
So there is no one size fits all, so to speak. Not
Mhm.
everybody will get the relief in 3 months,
Mhm.
but it's certainly not unusual for them to get fast relief. Same with
Mhm.
the men with the prostate. I would say maybe not quite as quick. Um, Again, speaking for myself and my dad, but after my dad's bypass surgery was canceled by Boston Medical after 3 months on the
Mhm.
heart drops, I didn't know he was taking prostate medicine, Nicole, and it wasn't working. So they booked
Mhm.
him in for a, what do they call it, a prostectomy to remove his prostate in
Mhm.
Boston. Because of the success of the heart drops, I convinced my dad to take the Strauss prostate formula for 3 months and then go to Boston. And if it's still has to come out, then you'll have it out. They canceled that surgery too. The doctors did at Boston Medical after 3 months, and my dad's passed away now, but he died 15 years later with
Yeah.
his healthy prostate still in him. Uh,
Wonderful.
so, some of these Western medical solutions are invasive, and once again, Nicole, I firmly believe we're meant to have all our original parts. There was no extras put in
Mhm.
there. The creator didn't give you a spare liver and a spare heart or spare veins. They're all for a reason.
For a reason.
So yeah, it can take up to 6 months. Um, and people
Mhm.
shouldn't be fooled by those results in the first week, should they? Like, you want to do
Well,
good.
that's the thing, Wayne. That's the thing. When it's already doing good, we know it's working. Keep going.
Yeah,
Some of the herbs in there, like connective tissue, doesn't just develop overnight. Strengthening of the organ itself and the tissues of the organ doesn't just happen overnight. It starts with a cell, but then that cell has to replicate. And before you know it, it takes a little bit of time, at least 3 months,
yeah,
for the tissue to start having this strength and that keep going if you need to. So I needed to. So even though I felt a lot stronger after that 3 months, my tissues felt stronger. I felt pelvic floor stronger. I kept going because, like I said, tissue takes a little bit longer than overnight to develop. The symptoms might start resolving in the first week or two, but that's just how you know the formula is working. I say keep going.
well, that's right. So it's encouragement, obviously. It's encouragement to keep going. It's wonderful to get relief quickly,
Mhm.
but um I'm sorry, I'm really plugged up here today. um yeah, you must stick with it, and it is painless, Nicole. I mean, they're all liquid
Yeah,
formulas, very easy to
easy
take.
to take. Oh yeah.
um Best 3 times a day, but
Mhm.
if you can't, um I must admit, when I took heart drops almost 30 years ago, when I started, uh, I was afraid I'd maybe lose that first bottle. Excuse me. So I left it on my bathroom sink, and I took it at
Mhm.
the start and finish of my day, which was about 4 or 5 hours apart. But I did take extra to account for that third dose I wasn't taking, and it sure did work for me. That's a long time ago.
Mhm.
When I think of having these issues I was having, the angina and the irregular heartbeat in my later 30s, um, I sure am grateful that 30
Mhm.
years later I don't have any
Mhm.
of that.
Mhm.
If I could shake this darn cold, I'd be just about perfect. At least I'd feel perfect. Um, so yeah, and we all know you're a marathon runner, or you've been a marathon runner, so I know
Well,
you're a big
not a
believer.
marathon runner, but in my mind,
Just in your mind?
in my
Okay.
mind. No, I mean, I all my life I was a runner. So, just for myself though,
Yeah.
just to beat my personal best, just to like to keep everything functioning, really. And then like back in the day, when I was like early 20s, they did kick me off the track team because I kept fainting. They thought I had
Wow.
asthma. It wasn't that. I had a mitral valve prolapse with regurgitation, but that wasn't diagnosed till, my mid 20s. Well,
Right.
that's when I was put onto the heart drops. Started taking the heart drops because I was not going to have surgery. No way was I letting anybody, like, what is this about my heart? I'm like, I'm only in my mid 20s. What are you talking about? Well, come to find out, I had atherosclerosis as well. So, anyway, long story short is some miracle brought me to the heart drops, started taking them. The other miracle is I was in my mid 20s and I started taking them because you're
Right.
immortal when you're 25. But I
Right.
started taking them because I asked my mom, what is this? Why would I have this? Well, come to find out the whole family on her side is just riddled with cardiovascular disease and heart attacks and this and that. So I said, okay, I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to be preventative about this. So I started on the heart drops. Well, 5 years later, my cardiologist set me free. He said, I did all the tests, the stress test, the tilt table, the everything again. And he said, why am I not finding your heart valve problem anymore? Your valve is normal consistency now. It's not thinned at all. And I said, well, that's good because I haven't been fainting and I've been back out running and there's no problems. And so
Beautiful.
when he said, I set you free, like you don't need a cardiologist anymore. The only thing I had done different was the heart drops. So I know without a shadow of a doubt, and of course I've done a lot of research about the product, the ingredients, and then always having, research or sorry, recommending it to my family and friends along the way saying, hey, if this did this for me and there's no more plaque in my arteries because I did the right protocol. I did the 12 consecutive months at the highest therapeutic dose for the plaque to dissolve. And then I went on maintenance. I said, if I can do this and it can reverse all that, what can it do for you?
Yeah.
Well, I have so many of my family and friends on this. It's unbelievable, the
Yeah.
testimonials that come back to me.
Nicole, no, I hear you there, and it's rewarding, isn't it? It's
And
that's
I and I do say it's a miracle. Like, how did how did I stumble across it? Well, people start when you ask for the answer, you shall receive, right? So something, it fell in my lap. I started taking it and never looked back.
yeah. Well, really, Nicole, I have a similar story. I had read years before. Um, I I'm not sure if it was before I started with the angina symptoms. I had that attack in my front lawn about age 35 or 6 at one of my
Mm,
son's birthday parties. We were having a football catching contest,
mm,
and bang, down I went. Um,
mm,
I think it was before that I had read. Anyway, it was around that time that I had read that Harvard Medical had discovered the earlobe crease on the
mm.
bottom part of our earlobe.
Which I have.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Was not only the best indicator of clogged arteries, it was better than all the others put together. That was
Mm,
Harvard Medical. And I remembered then going to the mirror, looking in the mirror. In fact, I'll show you now here. I don't know if it can be seen on the screen, but I have the crease on
yeah.
both my earlobes.
Yeah. Me too.
You
Me
too.
too.
Yeah. So when I read that and got up to the mirror, I saw the crease in both ears, and I got out family F2 photo albums, grandfathers and grandmas and aunts and uncles. And I'll be a son of a gun. Every one of them that had heart disease, of course, had the
Mm,
earlobe creases. And folks, you can Google Frank's crease, the man's name Frank's crease on your laptop or your telephone, and a picture will come up of an earlobe with the crease. So many ladies, Nicole, mistake it for, oh yeah, I wear pierced earrings.
mm,
Well, no, there's a distinct crease other than the line you might
mm,
have from your earrings. And when I saw that and looked at the pictures, I I didn't know anything about medicine really or health. I was an athlete, uh, and of course, what I did learn is just because you may look really good on the outside doesn't mean that things are good on the inside. I mean, I was a
mm,
football and a baseball player. I was in good shape on the outside anyway. I can tell you, I was very strong. Uh, I was a pitcher and a quarterback and a kicker, and I was just very strong. Uh, until this
mm,
plaquing of my arteries caught up with me, and then I wasn't so strong. But um, I didn't do any research to help me. I didn't really even think where to start. I did go to a couple of doctors, went to a cardiologist, I went to an internal specialist. They talked about things I wanted no part of that I was afraid to do. Even the drugs, I was afraid. Never did like really chemical drugs.
mm,
Don't know why I developed that opinion, but I never did like them. Uh, Hoped I wouldn't take any, and so I apologized to each of the doctors. Said I just came to hear what you'd have to say. I had no intention of letting you do
mm,
anything to me, and a pharmacist saved me on the one pill that I was willing to take. The cardiologist said, "Why don't we try these to regulate your heartbeat?"
mm,
And we'll
mm,
try these for 30 days. And thank goodness I knew the pharmacist because of getting antibiotics for my sons over the years. And he
mm,
was on duty at the pharmacy. And I said to him, no trouble taking
mm,
these for a month, eh, Stephen? It was a 30-day prescription. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, to try them for a month, see if they help with my irregular heartbeat.
mm,
He said, I don't know who you've been talking to, but when you take the first one, don't ever miss one another day.
mhm,
I said, what? He said, you're a pretty young guy. I was in my 30s, pretty young guy to be on something like this. And I can never remember his name. I think the young fellow played for North Carolina, the basketball player in university, and they were in the Final Four, the big contest in the United States for the best college basketball team. And this lad decided to skip his pill that day, and he died on the court. So it's
mm,
very serious about not skipping one, and so I
mhm,
didn't fill that script. The pharmacist scared me, and we're supposed to be trying this, not something I got to go on for life.
mhm.
So I was lucky as can be, Nicole, to
Yep,
make it till I was
yep.
my 42nd
My
year working
daughter was
my
supposed to
way out.
go on the same drug.
Was she?
Yes, and
Wow, at
there's
that young age.
eh,
Oh my
well,
goodness.
no, yeah, and there's no way. She's no way. So she is on the heart drops. She is a lifer. She's a
Yeah.
lifer.
So you
Um,
can't go
you
wrong,
can't take
and
that
40.
risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, the risk. Uh, in the 40, whatever it is, Nicole, 44 years, I think, Strauss has been commercially available. There are eight generations of verbal master
Mm,
herbalists and medicine men, but commercially in Canada, 43 or 44
mm,
years, the heart drops and some of the other formulas been available. There's never been a complaint to the company, to Health Canada, or the FDA about any serious side effects or
mhm,
harm ever come to anyone. And I love that,
mhm,
that you can't hurt yourself. One time at a lecture down your way, I think I was at Leamington, I drank a 1 month supply during the 2 hour lecture just to prove to people you can't, it's like carrots or rutabagas or celery. You can't hurt yourself. You may need the bat. When I was a Cub Scout, I used to, you'd have to go and sell apples, and take a
mm,
donation and give a tag. And so they'd put us in front of shopping malls and that. Usually I ate more apples than that I gave away. And so you will need the bathroom, but you don't need a doctor. When you take natural things, your body knows what to do with them. And I'll remain forever grateful that I didn't suffer
Mhm,
through things that my family members did.
mhm,
In my family, it seems 59 was the toughest age to get past. Several of them died. Four of them died in their 59th year.
mhm,
A couple of them in their 51st year. We had hardening of the arteries, they used to call it. My one grandma, she didn't know she was here for 15 years. It's just terrible, right? The things that can happen to you. And the point is, we are meant to have every drop of that blood flowing everywhere. We have a vessel to
mhm,
carry it. That's the other thing about surgeries, Nicole. I've found that to help people with their pain and such, it's it seems much easier if they have not had an intrusive surgery, like to repair their
mhm,
shoulder. Uh, to do any of those kinds of surgeries, they have to cut through tiny blood vessels, tiny nerves. And
mhm,
once again, we're meant to have all those original parts, or the creator would not have put them there. Simple as
mhm,
that. There isn't
mhm.
any extras. They used to wonder, I guess, about tonsils. I had my tonsils out when I was 6 years old because of
Oh,
nosebleed.
yeah.
And far as I know, it hasn't hurt me having them out. But for the most part, we're
Mhm,
meant to have original equipment right to the end. And I appreciate you sharing your experiences with us. And yeah, I've also come to believe,
mhm,
Nicole. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but clean tissues
mhm,
is truly one of the most important things to get the toxins out. And
mhm,
that's really what most of these Strauss formulas, the originals anyway, the heart drops, the bladder, the kidney, the cardiocom, and the prostate. The bladder, kidney, and prostate formulas have the golden seal root, nature's
mhm,
great natural antibiotic herb. And because bacteria can be a real culprit in those parts of our body and difficult
mhm.
to be rid of. So difficult to accept help sometimes. So we always say, do your best not to skip a dose on those. But it's just, in my experience, it's just been marvelous. The painless way to have my iridologist told me about 20 years ago that he'd never seen such clean tissues on a person 50 years old. And that's really what most of these formulas do. And we're not meant to have those toxins in
Ah,
us.
absolutely. If
Oh,
can
right?
I'll just chime in if you don't mind on that
Yeah.
note. The the level of detoxification the heart drops do on their own,
Yes.
from like I had all my mercury fillings taken out little by little over the years. Now, I didn't have any side effects because was already on the heart drops. So my body didn't have that healing crisis situation because I was doing it one by one over the years, but I was on the heart drops, which helps with heavy metals. Like it
Yes.
just literally will get into every nook and cranny and get out gently, mind you, the little debris that stays stuck in those cells so that your whole body functions better. You've kind of elevated and optimized the entire system that way. When you clean the blood, you clean the whole body.
Yeah. It's a great blood cleanser. You mentioned heavy metals. Uh, Nobody ever said I was that smart when I was young. And after all, I did play football. So it turns out whacking your head into something full speed 200 times a day probably isn't the best thing in the world for you. But, um, when I was young, I tried to make a living. I tried recycling car batteries. They have lead in them.
Mm,
And the
mhm,
tops of the battery where you'd hook your charging cables if you need to boost your car, they're hard lead. And I had to get a way to get that lead. So I had
mm,
this great big cast iron cauldron, and I just had an open fire around it using the heavy plastic as the
mm,
fuel, which I'm wearing no mask, and I'm melting lead and I'm
mm,
breathing it in as I ladle out the lead into little ingot molds. And so I had heavy metals. And The strangest place, my iridologist told me I had heavy metals in my testicles,
Mm,
which is, I thought, wow, that's weird. I mean, I don't know how it traveled there, but anyway, you're right. These heavy metals can be a culprit.
mm,
And after I started on the Strauss heart drops years ago, uh, he was amazed because he saw no more heavy metals in me. So it's probably the
mm,
best blood cleanser that we can
mhm,
have as well. I know red clover is a
mm,
great blood cleanser,
mhm.
but clean tissues and the importance. I say this all the time, Nicole, because it's so important. If someone's going to lose a great deal of weight, if they're 300 pounds and they want to be 200 pounds, it's so important to detox, to cleanse during that weight loss so that a larger percentage of your mass is not toxins and poisons when you
That's
lose all
it.
that weight.
That's it right there. The fat cells harbor these toxins. That's one way the body naturally protects itself from these heavy metals from doing damage. So when you're releasing and you're on a weight loss program, now like these heavy metals, we have to rid of them. So we have to optimize the liver's capacity to do its job, to break down the fat, to break down and eliminate the toxins, and then again, the intestines will eliminate that. But in the beginning, we need the liver to be optimized. We need the whole body to be optimized. So again, like you said, the blood will kind of or the heart drops will facilitate that heavy metal detox that were trapped in the fat cells. Well, if you're losing fat cells, these heavy metals are floating around. You got to get rid of them
Yeah.
safely, and the heart drops will help do that. So,
I think we've all seen people, Nicole. I think of some, it kind of really bothers me still to think of them that lost a great deal of weight and didn't look good, had very uneven color, and oftentimes they'll get sick and can die. And really, if you go from, let's say you're an average sized person and you have, they say, 30 pounds of toxins in you,
mhm.
and now you lose a third of your weight, you just went to 15% toxins in your body mass from 10. So no wonder it doesn't always work out for the best. It just, I wanted to touch on that point again, and I'm probably going to repeat it because so many people are overweight today because of our lousy food choices and some of the things that they're selling us.
Mm.
But well, we've reached the time limit, Nicole. But listen, I thank you very much. You look great for 29 years old. I'll tell you that. It's a pleasure to always to speak with you, and I appreciate you coming on the show with me today. And I'll have you back again soon to help with the ladies and ladies' health. You're always a great source of information. So thank you,
Oh, my
and
pleasure. Thank
thank
you.
you, folks. Thank you for joining in. Appreciate very much. It's my honor to be with you, and um, just I hope you've gotten something that you may have learned today or heard that helps you with something. We'll be on the Truth Be Told radio network every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want more information, it's on the bottom of your screen. Please go to the Strauss website. That's Strauss, Strauss, naturals.com, or the toll free number to talk to one of the wonderful ladies there, 1-866-478-2873. That's 1-866-478-2873. So that's all for today, folks. Thanks a million for joining me. Thanks again, Nicole Gardner, for your wonderful contribution to the show today. And we'll see you, folks, or talk to you next Thursday. Thanks again for being with us. Have a great day.